And as for you...
No! Leave this one to me. I am placing you under a citizen's arrest. You do not have to say anything, but anything you do say will be taken... Oh. Cheeky little blighter.
Hello and welcome to Haunting Button House, a BBC Ghost podcast. I'm Luke and I am joined, as always, by Tash. How are you today, Tash?
I'm alright, thanks, Luke. How are you?
I'm alright, yeah. Just chilling.
Just chilling. It's always awkward at these points because we've spent all week together, so it's kind of like we don't really have anything that's new to tell each other. But
that's the thing, we're not meeting and coming together and going, oh, what have you been up to? It's like, well, we know everything we've been up to. So we kind of have to just go, well, this is what we did to everybody out there. So what did you do, Tash?
So this week I've been to work. Oh, I had 2 days off this week because it was Easter.
Yes, yeah.
So, last week. So that was nice. And then I went to an ABBA tribute. Obviously, everybody loves ABBA, apart from you.
50 years. Whoa, hang on. That's inflammatory. I don't not like ABBA. I'm just not the biggest ABBA fan in the world.
Okay, well.
Bloody hell.
So, went to see an ABBA tribute with my mum on the anniversary of, the 50th anniversary of ABBA winning the Eurovision. Not specifically for that, I just happened to fall on the same night.
Did they, I was going to say, are they touring or?
Yes, I looked on their website and it seems like they do every Friday and Saturday night somewhere.
Okay. See, I thought maybe it was just a one-off and they did it because it was there. But yeah, I thought that was weird that they just have, did it there of all places.
Yeah, so anyway, that was how we spent our Saturday night. But it was good.
I just spent the night I stayed in and just watched a load of wrestling because it's WrestleMania weekend, which, again, I don't know if people are interested in that at all. Probably
I
not.
don't know if we get 12-year-olds.
I don't know what the crossover is between Ghost fans and wrestling fans. Probably one of me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's been our week. We have had some feedback.
So we've had some interesting feedback, as well as our usual feedback that we have. So we've had 2 separate bits of feedback about like how we sort of end the episode segment of the podcast. So I'll read out the feedback. As always, we want to be transparent. So good and negative, positive and negative feedback that we get, we kind of want to discuss and make changes. So Cheryl says, question for Tash. When you go to a restaurant and have a fantastic meal and excellent service, do you rate it 5 stars or hold out in case you go back and have an even better meal? A better rating system for the episodes would be for you to create a rubric of sorts, and if the episode hits the mark for each criteria you've set, then it gets full marks. How can a series as a whole be a 10 if you downgrade each episode along the way? So that's one bit of feedback that we had. And then a similar piece of feedback we've had is from Sam on YouTube. And it says, I don't get the impression that the presenters of this podcast actually like ghosts and enjoy the episode they're reviewing. They never score particularly highly and they can be hypercritical. So, what do we think of that feedback?
Yeah, so, I mean, we've sort of talked about this when we saw it, and I don't know, I feel like we've given our sort of rating criteria every time we do this, of saying that we're kind of rating the episodes just as a whole, not reviewing, not rating them against other things that exist, so like other TV shows and other films, whatever. So we're rating them 1 to 10 based on how much we enjoyed them compared to the other Ghost episode. And I think we've said a few times that the first series, in hindsight, is probably the weakest series.
Yeah.
So that's probably where we've given the lowest scores. So yeah, it did feel that we're a bit confused because we gave what we sort of thought as the main rating structure of it.
I think it can be subjective, like a 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. And I think we tend to base it on our thoughts on the individual episode, but also looking at the sort of the series as BBC Ghosts as a whole. I think using the analogy of going to like a restaurant that Cheryl used would be, I'd unlikely go to a restaurant and try every dish like on the menu.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, if you look at each episode of Ghosts as a dish on a menu, we are trying each episode. So we probably would enjoy some more than others. And sort of as you've mentioned, the series 1, we have always said like we from watching the whole thing, we do feel like it's a little bit maybe not as good. Like I definitely would rate episodes coming up, definitely in the with the last series in series 5, there's definitely a 10 out of 10 in there. Especially I think we discussed like the Christmas episodes are really good as well. So it would be unfair to rate them the same. And I do also think that like our ratings are similar to IMDb. So I've kind of gone back and listened to each bit where we've given our ratings. And I think we justify them.
I think I worked out my average, and my average was...
Really?
Yeah, because I was like, maybe we are... But my average was 7.65, I think, or something like that, which is, I think, what it gets on IMDb at the moment. So it's going to get lifted up. I'm pretty sure it would,
I think as we've gone into series 2, we've seen on IMDb that it's gone into the 8s. So yeah, it's a difficult one. Totally take on board what people say, and I do think sometimes with the rating, I tend to wing it a little bit because I wait till we've discussed the episode to kind of get a final thought on it. So I kind of don't. I mean, the podcast is always meant to be light-hearted, and
I think the one takeaway that anyone listening should know is we like all the episodes. There's none of them that we don't like.
No.
Even the one that there's one earlier on in the series where we were a bit critical of that one. We still enjoyed the episode.
Absolutely.
More than I would of an episode of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something rubbish that's on the TV. I don't know if anyone listens. But like every episode of Ghosts I enjoy. It's just some I do enjoy more than others. And when you're ranking them against one another, something has to be ranked badly. Otherwise, you just say everything is
a 10 out of 10. Yeah. I think going into this, I was worried about rating things too highly. So, as I said, I do take on board that maybe we have been a bit more critical, but that's only because we're only... how many episodes into the podcast
this is
are we?
10, episode 10, this is.
Are you sure?
Yes. Unless I've misnumbered them somewhere.
Are you sure?
I'm sure this is the 10th episode. Because we've done...
6.
Yeah, and this must be 11.
Yeah, I know.
Uh-oh.
You know, every week I have to correct
you.
That's
true. Maybe I have to look back. Oh, no, last week's was the 10th. Yeah, 10. Yeah.
So this that we're recording now is episode 11. So, we're 11 episodes into... I don't even know how many episodes there are.
Probably like... What is it, 6 times 5? 30? There we go.
Plus the Christmas specials.
Christmas specials, yeah.
So, yeah, I guess we're like a third in. We've still got quite a lot to go. And as I always say, I know that there's really good episodes to come. There's bits, when I think of Ghosts, that I think of these particular episodes that I have in my head that I know are going to be 10 out of 10. And the people that have watched Ghosts all the way through, hopefully, maybe agree. There's always going to be people that disagree, and that's
definitely
absolutely,
But we kind of wanted to bring this up as to like get this sort of temperature of what everybody else thinks, didn't we? Of like,
so I guess the question we really have is, what do other people think?
Yeah.
Is, are we too critical of the episodes, and should we look at them in a different way? And we absolutely want honesty. Like, I'm really like grateful for Sam and Cheryl to come forward and give us their opinion of what they think, but yeah, we're just interested to know what the wider audience think. And also, should we scrap doing the out of 10s?
That's the thing, because ultimately it's quite a small part of the episode that doesn't really have any bearing. Yeah.
It's more than happy for everyone to keep telling us what their out of 10s are. Obviously want to know your opinions of the show as well. But yeah, so what do you guys think on that one?
Yeah, let us know.
We don't want to give it too much time because we have got other feedback.
Okay.
So there's a piece of feedback that came in actually on a couple of episodes ago, but I missed it. It was on YouTube. And it's from Jenny from Central Texas. And she said, I discovered BBC Ghost this autumn. And devoured the first 3 seasons on offer on Amazon Prime very quickly. Then I gifted myself seasons 4 and 5 when they were released for purchase right before Christmas and at the beginning of the new year. I've now been through the 5 seasons at least twice and still find hidden gems I missed the first go through, which I really relate to that because I feel like that is what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Is sort of finding things that we missed in the first sort of run through.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you're going through it with a fine-tooth comb.
Yes. So Jenny says, every season is solid and some seasons shine more than others. And in season 2, they really hit their stride. So, I mean, it's kind of what we've already said, Jenny. In this bit, I just missed this bit of feedback. But hopefully you're listening and you can appreciate that we totally agree with what you're saying. So yeah, and then we also had some feedback from Marianne. So she said, finally a 9 out of 10 from at least one of you, because that was your Are you okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Luke's fallen over. So she said that she enjoyed this episode a lot, and flashbacks to Death Days are always interesting, and the twist of Thomas's cousin basically setting him up to die is a great plot twist. I wonder if a pistol shooting a lead pellet from a distance through human flesh would actually pass through the body and out the back. They aren't duelling with Glocks. I'm betting the pellet is still in his body or spirit body at this point. So glad we meet Annie, even as a peripheral character.
Yeah, it's a good point about was there more? Sorry.
Does anyone know what a lobster hat looks like? I've got a good idea.
I imagine it's just imagine Sebastian from Little Mermaid just stuck
on your head.
Yeah, basically. I don't think it's any more simple than any more complex than that. The musket ball thing is a good point though, because I know they do notoriously they weren't so like bullets these days kind of they sort of mash up, but they kind of stay as one bit. But I think musket balls did used to just fracture. So, good point. Like from that distance, would it have actually gone through and then fell, or would it? But then again, if it did go in and stay in there, and then not to.
How did Mike find it?
Well, he would have died.
It would have fallen out.
We would have, yeah. the natural cause.
Well, wouldn't it have just been taken away with his body? But then so would the letter have been taken away with his body as well.
The letter, yeah, that wouldn't. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of.
Caroline says in her feedback, the gunshot wound in the back of Thomas's waistcoat. Entry wounds are always much smaller than exit wounds. So I didn't know that. So you might not see it at a casual glance, but you may be right that they didn't add a hole in the costume. So yeah, who knows?
Apparently there's a production glitch in this episode, something to do with lighting or something like that. I didn't notice down what it was, but yeah.
I wonder if I caught onto that, because I didn't know there was a thing, but anyway.
These things happen, unfortunately. We all remember Game of Thrones and its coffee cups.
Yes, absolutely. So Caroline also said, I absolutely love Mary's "what would I wear if I could" outfit with a simple lobster hat. This is one of my favourite episodes, such a complicated setup, but seeing how different things appear to the different characters depending on their interests and perceptions. I think we'd said that, didn't we? Like, it was really interesting to see. I love the introduction of Annie here, despite the fact that she only has a negligible part in the story. We don't learn more of her until series 4, so this is a very long lead in. God,
is it series 4? I forgot about that.
I know.
Yeah, I knew that we saw her again, but yeah, I didn't realise it was that far away. 2 whole series. That's
absolutely. And then in Caroline's History Corner, which, how does Caroline have a segment?
I know.
I don't even have a proper name for my segment.
You do, you just don't have a jingle for it yet.
Okay, we're going to have to make 2 jingles now. Okay, so in Caroline's History Corner, it says, concerning rules for duelling, it seems that if both parties fire and no one is killed, then either honour is satisfied because both risked their lives, or the protagonists agree to hold a second duel.
Okay, right.
So,
I mean, I'd be like, let's leave it there.
yeah. Fate allowed me to live.
But then, to be honest, if somebody said, do you want to shoot each other for 10 paces, I'd be like, nah, you're right.
And King Charles II, brackets, this was 100 years before Kitty's time, and the same status would probably still have applied to the pineapple, was so taken... Also, King Charles II was so taken with pineapples that he commissioned a portrait of himself being presented with one. It was purported, purported?
I think that's the word. I'll be honest, I can't.
Fancy words
I can't tell you what it means, but I've heard it.
To be the very first to be grown in England, and is now thought to have been imported as a juvenile and merely ripened on home soil. Wow, that's so interesting.
And now I buy my nan a pineapple plant for Christmas.
For her birthday.
For her birthday, sorry, yeah.
So I think that is all the feedback that we have. So yeah, so we just to finish off the feedback is that we'd really like some feedback from you. Let us know what you think about the ratings, and absolutely would rather people were honest. Let us know what you think.
Also, are we overthinking it?
Yeah. Maybe we are overthinking it a little bit and have given a bit too much time for it. But yeah, we'd really want to hear what you think.
This week we are looking at episode 5 of series 2, entitled Bump in the Night. By the way, just as a note, Tash did mention that I get the numbering wrong. Sometimes do that. I'll copy it from the episode before and change the wrong number. So I say stuff like third instead of... So if you ever do notice that, that's just me being an idiot. But yeah, so this week we are looking at Bump in the Night, directed by Tom Kingsley, written by Martha Howe Douglas.
We've not had one from Martha for a while, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
Not for a while.
Not for a while, no. And also Lawrence Rickard. I'm a bit paranoid now that I say the names wrong after Willy Bond. The original air date was the 19th of October 2020. We start and we see Alison and Mike unpacking some stuff from a wedding delivery company, or just, a delivery company. I don't know if it's specifically for weddings. And there's all kinds of stuff in this for a wedding that they're planning. Silver cutlery, candlesticks, all that kind of stuff. Lots of boxes. Mike makes a comment that he had no idea so much went into a wedding. And Alison says, speaking as your wife, that was clear. Which I think is a pretty common stereotype of men just not having any clue as to what goes into wedding planning.
I'm not saying anything.
The captain is talking to Humphrey, and we find out that Humphrey is on duty or guard for the evening. I mentioned it later on, but I'll bring it up here. Does this happen all the time? Do they somebody have to stay watch or something like that?
See, I thought that was really interesting that the captain almost foresaw that there was going to be some kind of burglary, because it's never been kind of mentioned before, that they were maybe subject to someone breaking into the house.
Because also as well, they don't even know that Alison's going out. So if it was they knew she was going out or something like that, it would make sense that they're having somebody who's on watch.
Maybe he just knows that it's expensive stuff.
Or maybe because they're getting stuff brought in
for the wedding. That's
maybe
going to be happening.
It's a fairly recent thing that they brought in. But yeah, Humphrey's on watch. He agrees reluctantly and says, pick me up at 6, literally, as his head is just lying on the floor, as per usual. We see Fanny talking to Mike. Obviously, he can't hear a thing that she's saying about how to organise the all of the cutlery properly. And she also comments that there's no oyster forks and stuff like that. So yeah, she has a very particular idea of what should be in the wedding stationery. Is that the word? Breakfast, yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess.
As Alison is leaving the room, she tells Mike not to try and bend the forks, as he's literally about to try and bend the forks. So, spoon, spoon. Sorry, did I say yeah? And then we go into the intro. So quite a short intro, just setting up
what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, this episode kind of has that twice as well, because there's a scene in a second, but I'll go through it now. The burglars arrive and explain exactly what they're going to try to do for the rest of the episode, just out loud to one another. This is like the clearest exposition dump I've ever seen in one of their episodes. But it kind of works because, you know, they're kind of like the classic idiot burglars. Or, you know, there's the one who's got the idea and then his sidekick who's...
It's Jay's dad from The Inbetweeners.
It is Jay's dad from The Inbetweeners, yeah.
And if he's anything like Jay's dad from The Inbetweeners, then I can't imagine he's a very successful burglar.
No, he always seems to play somebody condescending. Yeah. He's kind of typecast to that. The younger one of the two mentions... He doesn't
Nev,
say...
I think his name is.
Is it Nev?
I think so.
Yeah. Vin and...
Oh, maybe it was Vin.
Yeah,
Vin. Nev.
He's the guy who does Catfish, isn't he?
And that's Neve.
Okay. Spelled the same.
I did write the name. Vinny was the older guy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm sure it's Nev, because when later on, when he writes it down, it says Nev, Vinny, Pete.
Yes, yeah. I like that little reference to Die Hard. Because that's what he does in Die Hard. He's over writing their names down. So yeah, we see the younger of the two, sort of. He's kind of. We get him mid conversation, but he kind of says, "Oh, I think it's haunted," or "That's what I've heard," is what he's saying. So you know, they're already starting off with this kind of feeling that there's. Well, he thinks something's up with the house. Jay's dad. I don't know what his name is. Vin. Yeah. He's skeptical and doesn't really care. He's like, look, we just got to get this job done. But he explains, as I said, exactly what's going to happen. They need to check out the house, find out if there's any ways in, scope the place out, if people are going out, and then come back in the night so they can burgle the place. Really clear, so we know exactly what's going to happen in this episode. We cut literally to that evening. There's no sort of time at all. It just goes straight to it. And
I do feel like this episode just goes really quick.
I put in my final wrap up, it's like a roller coaster. Like you've got no control over it. It just goes and it's like all over the place in the best way, shall I say?
Yeah.
But yeah, we cut to the evening and it's music night and Julian is giving us a rendition of Boys to Men, which is absolutely
great, yeah.
It's haunting.
I love it.
I like Mary's reaction to it, where she just says, "I don't want him to." As the song is, what is it now? It's "Make Love to You." That's yeah. Which, to be fair, when you think about the lyrics, it's really creepy.
Awful, isn't it?
Alison is planning a night out, or she's going out for the evening. So she's telling Mike that she's going to meet her friends. Mike is a bit reticent that he's going to be stuck in the house on his own with the ghosts because they're all, in his words, dead and weird. I
think it's interesting that he's more concerned about the ghosts. He's more worried about the ghosts and what they're going to do than the possibility of what does happen, and that's a burglar.
To be fair, though, I imagine it's like nobody knows ghosts are real. You know what I mean? You kind of just go, oh, there might be ghosts, but you don't seriously think about it. A lot of people don't seriously think about it. If somebody told you, yes, there's ghosts in this house, but you can't see them or interact with them and they can't interact with you, it would kind of be like if somebody said, oh, somebody lives in your house, but you'll never see them. You'd be like constantly on edge. You know what I mean? You'd be like, wouldn't be able to relax, although that's not the case because Mike is very good at relaxing, as we see later on. Alison leaves and we see the burglars are waiting outside in the van. They see Alison leave, and obviously they think, this is our time to strike, not knowing that Mike is still there. They try to get ready to go out, but the younger of the burglars, what was his name again now? I just put younger burglar.
I think it's Nev.
Nev, yeah.
It's going to really...
We'll say Nev for now, yeah. But he's eating really slowly, so he's holding them up. They give off a lot of... what's the film?
Sticky Bandits.
Yeah, Home Alone vibes on these two, yeah. So Mike sort of sets his stall. He, while he's in the room on his own, he tries to talk to the ghosts and say that, well, initially we see he's trying to call his friend to try and get them to come over to play the PlayStation, just so he's not in the house on his own. But they can't make it, and just as that happens, his phone dies, and he puts it on charge, which becomes key to the episode later on. He goes on to say that to the rest of the ghosts that he doesn't want to. He just wants to be left alone. He doesn't want any hassle. He just wants to eat his trifle in bed and chill out, which I think is incredibly decadent activity.
I think it's important to add this bit, an important plot point, that his battery died.
Yes, yeah, I mentioned, yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. So then he's calling his mates, and then he's...
Am I not listening to you? Okay.
Unbelievable. But as he's... Oh, sorry.
Why did I miss you saying that?
It's because I went back and said that, I think. And then, so at this point... He's telling the ghosts this, expecting them all to be stood around watching him.
They're listening to Kitty.
They're listening to Kitty sing Amazing Kitty.
I think it's a great song.
To the tune of Amazing Grace.
Great rendition of the song.
Yeah.
If anything, it improves it.
We've got a lot of American listeners. That's an interesting comment.
Sorry, team.
You're like Borat. So he says that, he's going to try and relax, but he doubts he's going to be able to with all the ghosts around, to which we hard cut to him immediately asleep with a trifle on his chest.
Imagine just the thrill of just eating a whole trifle to yourself.
You're an adult. You can do this, Tash. No one can stop you. You can. No one can stop you.
No one can stop me.
Yeah. Oh. You could do this now. Well, I mean, you could actually. The shop doesn't shut till 10. You could go to the shop, buy a trifle, bring it back, sit in bed and eat it with a spoon. So that's our evening.
Too much dairy.
Yeah, true. Humphrey is on post where he's just been stuck on the top of the building.
Why do they keep putting him up there?
Also, why put him up there he has no chance of getting anybody's attention. Like, he can't leave, so it's absolutely useless. He sees the burglars though and starts to shout intruders, but unfortunately the captain is doing his own snare drum solo, or mime snare drum solo. I think he's trying to do Long Way to Tipperary, isn't he?
Yeah,
I thought.
Definitely.
Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah.
It's a long way to Tipperary.
Okay, yeah. I shorten it. It's the cool version. But yeah, so the burglars get into the house, immediately knock over a lamp. The ghosts go to investigate what that noise was, which I thought was funny, that the ghosts are going to investigate what's that creepy thing. So yeah, the ghosts find the burglars, and they realise what's going on. Or some of them do, as Julian thinks, this is an insurance fraud. Again, Julian's character to a T. Nothing's ever simple. It's always a bit of a fiddle that he's doing. The captain goes into full alert, and he says that somebody needs to alert Alison, and also the ghosts need to start taking note of anything that's been stolen, and sort of make an inventory of it. Somebody says, where's Alison? In bed, I think. And Thomas immediately goes, I'll go. So he's still not changed. Pat then attempts to talk this Neve Nev. It's definitely
I
Nev.
think I'm going to go with Nev.
To sort of talk him out of his life of crime. And goes over to him and puts him under citizen's arrest. But as a ghost, that's quite difficult, as he is immediately walked through. We see Kitty and Mary then trying to remember what's happening, what's been taken by Nev. Nev walks through Mary, which makes sort of the smoky smell, which starts freaking him out. Obviously, he's the one who believes in ghosts anyway. Thomas comes back in at this point and says that Alison's gone. The captain says we're on our own. And this is where we're outside now, seeing them loading all the stuff they've stolen into the van. And Kitty and Mary are struggling to remember what's been taken. So Kitty suggests that they use sort of a memory technique, like Alison has taught her, of the rainbow one Richard of York gave Battle in Vain, where she remembers Violet or Vane as very light blue.
It's hard to remember, to be fair.
That is true, yeah. But they do come up with their own version of this for, I can't remember what they're actually, it's like candlesticks, cutlery, and spoons or something like that.
Yeah.
And Mary sums it up as cups, and some more cups.
Yeah. And then they bring a pallet of cups, and she's like, this complicates things.
Yeah. I forgot that bit, yeah. The pallet of them. The rest of the ghosts now are all sort of around Julian, as his power is pretty key in this episode as the only person who can now interact with the real world. As he dials 999 and tries to contact the police, basically. But they manage to get through. They manage to call the police. But as they're all ghosts, no one can hear them at all. I like Robin at this point says, we did not think this through.
We not think this through.
Yes, yeah. But they come up with another plan. They can get the Plague Girl, as she can be heard by mortals. Again, they didn't really think this one through, as they... oh, no, this is later on, isn't it, where they get Jemima in. The other burglar, the older burglar, who I've noted down his name is Vin here, so yeah, it is Vin and Nev, comes in and notices that the telephone has moved. And Nev starts to think this is definitely ghosts, so there's the smells and things moving. But Vin says that they need to cut the phone line, to which Nev just goes to cut the lead from the handset. So he tells him no, he has to cut the main phone line.
It's very destructive.
Yeah.
It's, there's one thing going in and stealing someone's stuff, but then to actively break something that's really expensive and difficult to fix.
That's the thing, yeah.
Horrible people. Who'd have thought, eh?
Hate criminals, yeah. They managed to get Jemima. Is it Jemina? Jemima? Yeah. I must have typed it wrong. I was typing it quick. The Plague Girl to actually talk to the services, but they realise too late that all she can do is sing Ring a Ring of Roses, which doesn't really help them. We do see them later on trying to get her to sing There's a Burglary in Progress to the tune, which I thought was quite good. We then see Julian, they decide they need to get Mike's attention, as he's the only person now who can actually help this. So Julian, Robin and Thomas go upstairs and see that he's sleeping. They think he's dead at one point, and Thomas says, "Is he dead?" And he says, "I wish." And he says, and then he starts to question if that's a good plan, if he dies or not. Robin says, "Scratch his face," and Julian thinks he said Thatcher's dead, which just reminds me of Lemmy with his his Thatcher song. But yeah. No one's told him then that she has passed, unfortunately, now.
Ding.
see outside Nev is trying to cut the phone line.
Sorry, I just want to go back.
Yeah.
It really made me laugh when maybe you're going to come to it and I've just skipped ahead, but it really made me laugh when they we know that Julian is pushing Mike's nose.
Yeah.
But we just see his nose sort of fold into itself.
I thought it was quite good. I reckon.
It looks like a really bad twitch,
Yeah.
but obviously we know that Julian's moved his nose.
Do you know what I reckon they did with this? Do you know we watched Taskmaster yesterday and they had the green screen? I reckon they just had somebody with a green screen finger just push his nose.
That's how they did it.
Oh, okay, I thought that was me.
No.
You figured out some movie magic.
I'm pretty sure any time that Julian moves something, it's with that green screen
you're
thing.
probably right there, aren't you?
Of course it is. How else would they do
I
it?
thought I was like, I'm ingenious. I figured this out. Anyway, back outside, we see Nev attempting to cut the phone line. But in his first instance, he cuts the main electric line, which sends him flying backwards. 100% would kill him. There's no way he would survive this. Or maybe that's the twist. Maybe he's now a ghost. Nah. All the lights go out. This is as they're trying to get Jemima to sing down the phone line. But then he does manage to cut the correct one. The burglars are back inside and they're sort of looking at what else they can steal, and they find a painting of I think it's Fanny, isn't it? And they think that it's not really that worthwhile of taking. They say maybe the frame might be worth something, which upsets Fanny. I do like this bit where she says, where he says, "Oh, it's not that good." And she says, "How are things at Sotheby's?" Which I didn't know what it was, but I looked into it. It's a fine art college or a fine arts cellar, isn't it, Sotheby's?
Yeah, I thought it was Summerbees, but I'm not sure.
I thought she said Sotheby's.
Maybe.
But yeah. We go back to see Mike is still asleep, and they realise that they need to they need to up their ante a bit with this. So what was it now that Pat says, in case of emergency, break glass, and they see that there's a glass on the side. I did also like at this point where the captain comes in and says to Julian, we need I can't remember the exact line now, but he says, "You're our only hope," and Pat just goes, Star Wars. That's embarrassing. That is, as a Star Wars fan, I've not watched it in a long time, but not knowing that's going to haunt me now.
But it's your favourite film.
It's not my favourite film anymore. It sounded like Star Wars has done something to me there. Anyway, they do manage to push the glass off of the table, hoping it smashes, but it doesn't. It kind of just falls on the floor and spills water, which Julian says, "Oh, it's good craftsmanship." Looks at the bottom and says, made in Britain. So he's happy with that at least. But then this sort of action sets off this, what do they call it now? A Rube Goldberg machine, where it's like one tiny thing sets off all the rest. Where it wets a cloth, so the cloth falls off, which knocks something, so it hits the door, etc. And eventually it knocks the TV off.
Yeah. Which wakes him up.
Yeah. Which was more impressive, this one or the one in the Hangover episode?
Remind me of the Hangover episode.
Do you know where she opens the door and then like the rubbish falls out? I feel like this one.
Maybe, yeah. Although there is a knight in armour in that one, isn't
True.
there? So it swings and roundabouts.
Well, that comes into play much later on in this one. So yeah, the burglars do hear the noise at this point, pick up a poker and a candlestick, which Nev initially just picks up the candle, thinking, well, it's stick-shaped, so this must be the candlestick. They go to investigate this. And the ghosts also at this point realise that they need to communicate to Mike, and they're not sure how to do this. They suggest to do it in Morse code, And I can't remember who says it, where they say, will he know Morse code? And both the captain and Pat at the same time says, everybody knows Morse code.
Do you know Morse code?
I know SOS, and that's about it. So
What's that? Beep, beep, beep. Beep, beep.
It's
beep,
dot,
beep,
dot, dash, 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 dot, dot, dot. So I could do 2 letters there. So that's it, really.
It's like finger spelling with sign language.
Basically, yeah. It probably has the same, like, kind of, I don't know, yeah. Maybe it has the same basis, but who knows. They decide to do Morse code to him, but they decide to do it in the creepiest way possible.
It's awful.
Where they manage to make a doll's eyes blink, and obviously he runs into a wardrobe and hides. Then they realise, obviously, what they've done and say, didn't think... I don't know if they said they didn't think that through, but they said we could have done better there.
Yeah.
Mike calls Alison and sort of tries to explain that something weird's going on.
He says the ghosts have gone rogue.
Yes. And then the ghosts obviously come in and talk to Alison over the phone. She can hear them. And they explain that they're being burgled. And she tells Mike this. And she also says, you need to stop hiding in the wardrobe and go out. And he says, how do you open the wardrobe? And she just guessed, to be fair. Is that the best
I do
place to
find
hide?
it interesting that she can hear the ghost over the phone.
Yeah, it's interesting, that, isn't it?
Because you would think that it would just be sort of in-person interactions that, you know, I always think of the ghosts, any ghost, whether in the TV show Ghosts or anywhere, as like energy. So the fact that she can hear very specifically that there's intruders in the house over the phone is quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, isn't there, in this where you sort of, if you think too much on it, it kind of breaks down. It's kind of like time travel. As soon as you start like including that into a story and you start picking it apart, it's like it doesn't really work properly. But anyway, let's not worry about that. It's more fun this way.
Yeah.
So Alison says, hang up, call the police, and she'll get home. So Mike goes to call the police, but his phone battery runs out, as we saw earlier, that his phone was on like 5% battery.
Yeah.
The burglars at this point mention that they're almost done and they should think about leaving soon. So all of this is kind of wrapping up now. Mike tries to talk to the ghosts and says that if they can communicate, let him know by giving 3 knocks, to which Julian says, why 3? But he managed to do it. And then Mike tries to talk to them by saying two vague questions, basically. Instead of just yes, no answers or something like that.
Yeah.
He starts asking them stuff that there's no way they'd be able to say this. But then they come up with a plan when they look to the bathroom and they see, that there's something that can be done there.
This way, everyone.
Twice.
To the bog.
You're still here.
That's it.
Oh.
Good, good.
Very good.
Yes,
Michael.
yes.
Okay, Robin.
Every time.
This.
Here we go.
Okay. How many burglars are there?
All right, here we go.
Come on.
20. I need to get out of it.
What are you doing? There's not 20.
No, I was writing 2 of them.
Just write 2.
Well, you know, hindsight is a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Moron.
I do like at this point that Julian mentions as well that this is more hard work than his animal welfare bill. And Pat looks shocked that he had an animal welfare bill. And he says, no, I was against it, balls to animals, which sums him up again. They go into the bathroom and try to steam up the mirror. He realizes what they're doing, so it helps them, lights a match, and so Mike realizes what they're trying to do, helps them, lights a match, which Robin looks shocked by, and it says every time as he's shocked by the fire. And we as they're trying to explain to him how many burglars there are, they start by writing 2, and then he goes on to write a 0 at the end of it. So Mike thinks there's 20, runs away, and Julian explains that he meant 2 of them. Alison is then trying to get a taxi back, and she goes to the most unhelpful taxi rank I've ever seen in my life. Now,
Aren't they always like that, though?
I mean, I've been to a taxi rank when I've been absolutely steaming drunk, and they've still been pretty helpful to me, you know what I mean? This guy is just... There's no other word to say. He's an arse. He's an absolute pain. So, as he's not helpful at all, Alison decides to push over his papers in his little filing thing.
I feel like that's just what anyone wants to do when someone's been horrible to them. Just like, meh.
A little petty, like, revenge, yeah. The ghosts start saying that they need a new plan at this point, and Robin just runs away, just runs out of the door, to which the captain calls him a deserter, but obviously Robin does have a plan. Mike is sneaking around the house and keeps sort of encountering the 2 burglars. He picks up a golf club, and obviously he's going to smack them over the head with it, which I always think is I've seen people do that, get a golf club to use a weapon. That feels like the worst weapon. It's like a really tiny stick. The end's good, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'd rather have something chunkier but shorter. You know what I mean? What would you defend your house with?
I don't know.
I say your house like we don't live in the same house.
I know. I used to work with a woman who would keep oven cleaner under her bed.
Oven cleaner?
Yeah. So that then if anyone broke in...
She would just throw oven cleaner?
No, she would spray it in their face.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, I'm going to assume that she never had to do that.
Yeah. What would that do to you?
If it got in your eyes, it would hurt.
Yeah, I imagine it's kind of like pepper spray or something like that.
I guess. Not that I would recommend that at all.
Yeah, to anyone out there, call the police, that's what we suggest.
Yeah, I'd probably just make sure Shelley was in the room and then barricade myself in, call the police.
I'd try and take the high ground, I think, so if anyone tried to come upstairs, I'd just be like, get out! Just kick them downstairs.
Yeah, they'd probably just grab your foot and pull you down the stairs.
Maybe. Or get like a big pole so I can push them down. Do you know, like an Always Sunny, you just push them on the roof. Just do that.
I don't think we've got a weapon.
No, we're unprepared. We need some kind of, weapon. Somebody else is well prepared for potential intrusion later on in the episode, so we'll get to that. I went off a bit off topic there, but he has a golf club, but it's not very useful because the end falls off, to which he says, why is everything in this house old? Fanny starts following, she's been following the burglars around, trying to tell them how to rob the place better. And goes even darker later on. But she's basically telling them to wrap the glasses, otherwise they won't be worth anything. Kate and Mary are still trying to come up with a rhyming scheme. My favourite part of this bit is that they just go for chucks. They just say juice. Alison can't get a taxi, so she just decides that she's going to try and hitch a ride. She sees another woman with her and interacts with her, to which this hitchhiker looks surprised, but then it's because we realise she's actually a ghost, because she says, oh, were you murdered while hitchhiking too?
So sad.
I know, yeah. I was like, Alison immediately runs away, but I'm like, I'd need to know what that story was.
Yeah, because you
could
like get a justice.
Yeah.
Because she might know who did that to her.
Yeah. We've tapped into a much darker story in Ghosts than what we're presented. Yeah, I'll put this part. Mike pulls a John McClane, where he's listening to them talking and writing their names down on his hand. But he sees the suit of armour and has an even better plan, or what he thinks is going to be a better plan anyway. We see Robin running around the sort of grounds like he was in the last episode, actually. He must seem to do this. This is his plan quite often, I think. And then we see him try to leave, but then keeps coming back. We see this later on as well, because I'm pretty sure we do see this. Is this the first time we've seen them try to leave and then...
I think so, yeah, because we do see that later on where they all...
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think... no!
Have we seen this before, or...?
I'm just trying to think.
I don't remember it.
No, I don't think we have, because they run after the car.
Yes, yeah.
But they don't... They're not
they
sort of
don't-
pulled back
yeah, they
in,
don't-
are they? Because they don't technically go out of the grounds of the house.
They stop, don't they?
Yeah, whereas Robin is actually trying to escape.
Yeah. And this is our first sort of indication that they can't actually leave the grounds, which also opens the question up of how far. What's the sort of rules on the boundary of where you died? Where's you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who sets this?
How does the other realm know
Yeah.
that you can't leave this boundary?
Is it like a square foot kind of situation where it's like from the exact spot, or does it know this is the lands of Buttonhouse?
Maybe.
Who knows? But yeah, he can't leave, so he decides that he's just going to howl like a dog. And Barkley, or Barkley's dogs, or bitches as he always seems to call them, hear this howling, start to bark and wake up. So Barkley immediately springs to action and thinks that it is burglars, which is an interesting instinct, and pulls a shotgun out, which he keeps next to his bed. So, if we're talking about would we use a stick to defend our house, Barkley just goes the complete other end of the spectrum, shotgun. Alison is still looking for a lift, and she managed to flag down a taxi, but the taxi does have other people who are trying to use it, and they are a hen party with their own onboard karaoke.
I was going to say, it looks like a limousine.
Yeah, it's
more than
a taxi. Yeah, you're probably right there. Yeah, the hard cut to them singing, dancing. Was it? No, not Dancing Queen. It was. I've heard a lot of ABBA this weekend. It was. I Will Survive. That was it.
Yes, that was it.
Yeah. Just her, just trying to sing along whilst also looking at the time of we've
Just holding an L plate.
Yeah. We see the dogs get to Robin, who howls at them as they sort of all approach him. We also see Alison arrive at the house, or as she starts making her way to the house. As the burglars are walking away, Pat is berating Vin. And he promises him a bad time in prison. He says he's going to end up with drugs in his bottom. And as they all look shocked, he says that he's seen a programme on Borstal. Kitty and Mary then go to explain what was stolen or what's been put in this van using their memory technique, and realise that it's been pretty useful, as all they remember is cups and a rainbow. The burglars start to leave and drive. They go to leave, and they see a full medieval suit of armour walking out of the front door, lit up by the lights from inside. I think this is where there's a problem with the lighting or something like that. I'm not sure.
Okay, not where I thought it was.
Oh, it might be later on anyway. But yeah, Mike. We realise this is Mike in his medieval armour, but not realising how heavy medieval armour is. He just topples forward and falls over.
Topples back.
Yes, falls backwards. The burglars go to leave, and Fanny says that they've not even made an attempt to threaten the witness, and then sort of realises what she said and says, "What have I become?" The burglars get in the van and start to leave, but as they're getting down the driveway, Barkley appears with a shotgun and his dogs. They crash the van, and he Nev at this point says earlier in the episode their story was going to be that he had a bowel condition, if anybody asked them, and at this point I should have probably explained that earlier because it makes this joke more interesting, but he says that he's got a bowel condition, and Barclay says if he moves he will have one, which is quite a polite way to say I'm going to shoot you in the stomach.
Yeah. Who'd have thought that Barclay would have come to the rescue?
Yeah.
We've only met him once before, so, it's quite like a heroic comeback for him, really.
To a degree, but he gets a lot more credit than he deserves, because I'd say that Robin is definitely the architect of this plan. Humphrey falls from the ceiling, falls from the roof at this point, and says that there's burglars, which they're cottoned on to at this point. The police arrive and arrest them. And the police sort of mention that whoever the dispatch was heard a little girl singing down the phone. The officers sort of all put the two burglars into the back of the car, and Pat is sort of saying that Nev is going to get the book thrown at him, to which the officers say, it's his first offence, he's young, he'll probably just get probation, to which Pat is furious at. Alison thanks Robin, but Barclay is standing there and thinks all the praises for him.
Yeah.
And then we get to the final scene where we see Alison talking to Mike about the ghosts. And Mike says that, he still finds it creepy, but, they actually helped. And Alison says, that they when they first moved in, they were really selfish, but, they're actually... they're good now, they're helpful, and she notices something in the bathroom, goes in, and the steamy sort of room that they'd set up earlier is still in effect as Julian is sat there
in his sauna.
And he says, well, close the door, then I've had a hell of a day. That's the end of the episode. So what did you think?
What do you think? I really enjoyed this episode. It's quite fast paced, but also suspenseful. I did enjoy it. I just love the bits, like I kind of brought up and mentioned, when the ghosts, or when Julian is pushing Mike's nose.
Yeah.
I just love those bits where we see it from a person who can't see ghosts' perspective, what the ghosts are doing. It's like when Julian pushes the cup, or just how they sort of interact with the real world. I guess I just like those bits. But yeah, I thought it was a really good episode. As I said, it was really fast paced, but interesting. I do also like more so when we see how Mike interacts with the ghosts.
Yeah.
And I think because Alison obviously wasn't there during this episode. Well, she was there, but she wasn't at the house, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
We see a lot more of sort of how these two... It's a bit like... I guess it's not even like... I was going to say it's like humans and animals and how they interact with each other. It's even worse because one party can't see the other party. I was going to say,
they can't even perceive them.
So it's really difficult. But yeah, I just... I do like it when we see more of that, of Mike sort of interacting with the ghosts and how he doesn't know that he can't speak to them, but he still sort of warms to them. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a really fun episode. And I liked, as you said, this sort of Mike and the ghosts. It's kind of like a solo episode, but with the ghosts, if you know what I mean, but Mike on his own. Just because we get this, the two different worlds sort of interacting. And yeah, like I said, I mentioned earlier on that it felt a bit like a roller coaster where no one's in control of anything in this episode, but it's just a thrill as you go through it. A lot of jokes as well, like gags in this one. There was so many in this one, and it's sort of, I feel like Ghosts is quite good at this. Like, it has a lot of jokes, like throughout the episode. And I think it's something that I saw somebody mention about the Ghosts as a whole.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like what you're seeing is funny. It's more like the sort of the one-liners of each of the ghosts, what they say is what the funny parts of it.
A bit that really made me laugh was Robin when he gets shocked about the match lighting. He's like, that is like a really simple thing, but it's just like a funny gag that you can only get because you already know what the character's like. So
I forgot to mention actually the bit where Julian bends over and then he says "Made in Britain." That really made me laugh.
They're all like, oh. So what would you give this as a rate?
So it's actually really annoying, especially after, like, obviously what we said at the beginning. But I would give this a 9 out of 10, and it's genuinely, I would have given this a 9 out of 10 without like.
You're a panderer. That's
I know. No. I genuinely would. I just really enjoyed this episode. I think it's a good, strong episode. But yeah, it's just. I just feel like I've been forced. Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 2. No, I joke. I gave it an 8. To be fair, it's a really strong episode. Like I preferred last week's if you were like rating them against one another.
Yeah,
but
I can see that. I can see why you would, but I just like the simplicity, and I think it worked really well. And I think I really like Barclay's character. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I know. I just think he's just so. Oh God, he's just. I don't even know what the word is. He's just like the worst person, but like I don't know. I think he's an interesting chap.
Everybody knows somebody like that where they're just take a lot of credit for stuff that they don't deserve. So yeah, IMDb from 702 votes. The 2 at the end was not us. Rain gave it an 8.4, so again smack bang in the middle.
So interesting, I find this rating thing just so annoying but also interesting. So for Tash's spooky segment we're gonna have a look at Skirrid Mountain Inn. Skirrid.
Sounds like there's a ghost in here then.
So the Skirrid Inn is a public house in the small village of, now my Welsh is not great, Llanfihangel.
Okay.
Crew Corney.
Okay. I mean, I couldn't do any better there. So.
Approximately 4 miles north of Abergavenny, which,
okay.
I mean, I've been there, so I know where that is.
Yeah.
Monmouthshire, Wales. The inn looks out onto the Skirrid Mountain to the east and the Black Mountains to the west, part of the Brecon Beacons National Park.
Okay, I know that.
Yeah. So the inn is one of a number of pubs claiming to be the oldest in Wales. Work undertaken by the Glamorgan Gwen Archaeologists Trust was concluded that the present building is mainly mid-late 17th century construction. It is unknown exactly how old it is, but it was already named in documents from the year 1100. So that's much before the 17th century.
Pretty old.
The inn is named the Skirrid Inn because of its view of the Skirrid Mountain. People claim the mountain was struck by lightning and split into 2 the moment Jesus died on the cross.
Wow. In Wales, of all places. That's what happened.
I mean, I believe in ghosts, but that's...
That's like a butterfly effect kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
Man is crucified in Jerusalem. Was it? No. Where was it now? This is really testing my Bible knowledge. Jerusalem. It's got to be Jerusalem, and he was born there.
Can't be. Whoever was King Herod.
This is really showing us up. Like,
King Herod wasn't the king of Jerusalem. That's just where. Oh no.
I feel like we've done a Bible mashup here. We've just smashed all the stories together.
So Mary and Joseph were from Nazareth, and they went to Bethlehem. So Jerusalem's got to come in it somewhere. So it probably
like that,
is.
Yeah. But anyway, it's just mad that these 2 things. Anyway, hey, who am I to say the mysteries of beyond?
In 1175, the Skirrid Inn was the site of a massacre caused by William de Braose, who was a devout but also ruthless man. He was a nobleman and a right hand of the later English King John, 1199. William wanted revenge for the death of his uncle, Henry de Braose, who was murdered by noblemen from Wales. William invited 3 of them, along with a few leaders, to have dinner with him at the Skirrid Inn for Christmas. At dinner, he ordered his men to slay them all. So it's very Red Wedding, isn't it?
It's where it came from.
Really?
Yeah. As soon as you started saying that, I was like, I know what you're talking about now.
Red Wedding, Dead Wedding.
Yeah, because there's a load of stuff where in Game of Thrones, so it's based off of historical stuff.
Yes, yeah.
And that's where
So
the
it must
Red
be
Wedding.
from that, it definitely gave me those vibes when I was reading it. Another popular, although equally unverified legend is that the inn was used as a rally point for local supporters of the Glendower rising against the rule of Henry V. The uprising led by Owain Hughes Glendower. He is said to have personally rallied his troops in the cobbled courtyard before raiding nearby settlements sympathetic to the English in the 15th century.
Do you know what was a battle related to the Glendower uprising? Battle of Shrewsbury.
Oh. Another undocumented claim to fame is that the first floor of the inn was reputedly used as a court of law, where capital punishment was imposed for certain offences, including sheep stealing. I'm sure we've come across sheep stealing before. Legend has it that as many as 180 criminals were adjudged guilty of crimes serious enough to warrant the sentence of death by hanging. A sentence was allegedly carried out at the inn itself from an oak beam over the well of the staircase. Markings said to be from the rope marks still exist on the staircase wood. Jeff Fiddler and his wife Sharon were the owners of the pub from 2005 to 2019.
I thought you were going to say they were hanged until you said 2005. I was like, probably not then.
Now, it said in the thing, I'm sure they were the previous owners of this. So I'm sorry, Jeff, if you are still the owner of this. But at the time of writing the article that I read, I wasn't quite sure. So Jeff said, during the 14 years we've been here, I've experienced my fair share of unexplained phenomena. On our first night at the inn, before we'd taken over, we were sleeping in a big 4-poster bed when Sharon complained that something was tugging on her leg. It happened several times during the night and we had to keep turning the lights on. Of course there was nothing there, but we barely slept. Later we learned that relatives of people who were slow to die during the hanging would yank on their loved ones' legs to end their suffering. I was quite shaken by that. As a wee, Jeff, as a wee.
Some paranormal activity stuff, haven't they?
He also said, I've once seen a full figure, a coachman-like character in a tricorn hat, standing in the porch in broad daylight. He caught my eye for a second or two, then was gone. Since then, I've sometimes thought, did I really see that? Obviously, it would be great for business if I kept coming out with all these stories, but I do question everything.
See, the thing is as well, though, I have to imagine what you just said in a Welsh accent as well. Like, I imagine he's Welsh, isn't he?
I don't know.
You would assume
I was
so.
going to say I'd try a Welsh accent, but
yeah, please don't.
He continued, our best known former resident is an 18th century barmaid called Fanny Price, who died of consumption and is buried in the local churchyard. She has been spotted frequently and people often say they can smell lavender just before she appears. There have been more troubling manifestations. On half a dozen occasions, guests have shown me strange marks that have appeared around their necks, but there's only been one instance of outright malevolence that I'm aware of. A woman came running down from one of the bedrooms, hair wet and dressed only in a coat. She was saying, she tried to kill me. Apparently she'd been in the bath and something had held her down under the water. I thought it was interesting that she said she rather than he or it, but she didn't stick around to explain and I've been unable to contact her. The inn, largely based on these unverified and undocumented stories, gains a reputation for being haunted by several ghosts and spirits and has been said to be the scene of numerous supernatural occurrences or paranormal activities, and has been visited by TV shows such as Extreme Ghost Stories and Most Haunted.
Derek's been on the case.
So there, Skirrid Inn.
Skirrid Inn, yeah.
So I don't know.
That's a satisfying name to say in one. Skirrid Inn.
Skirrid Inn.
Yeah. So it sounds
I don't know if it's Skirrid Mountain Inn, but
Skirrid
it's because
Mountain,
it's near the Skirrid Mountain. But
well, there you go.
so yeah,
Ghosts all over the place, across the border and everything.
yeah. Well, whilst we've been recording this episode, we've had a message through on our Facebook page from Nick, and she's recommended somewhere for next week. So we'll have a look at that. So
Will do.
obviously we had already planned this for this week. But yeah, we'll have a look at that place next week, which will be interesting. So thanks for listening. We love to hear what you think, and if you'd like to keep up to date with when new episodes of the podcast are released, you can follow us on our Instagram and our Facebook profile. Just search Haunting Button House. You can also get in touch via email at hauntingbuttonhouse@outlook.com.